So this is an insanely intimidating puzzle, but I'm going to quickly show you a technique called variable coloring, which makes it a lot less. At its heart, the idea behind variable coloring is that you color the squares in with a color that isn't either red or blue, but could be either red or blue, and all of the squares that you color one color must all be the same. In this way, you're treating the colors like they're a variable in maths. To start this puzzle, you need to do a counting argument on one of the threes, which gives more information to work with. This is also a pattern that's good to just kind of memorize so that when you see it in a 4x4, you can know, oh, there's a counting argument that I can do here. So to start off with, I'm going to just choose a color that I'm going to make the 3, and I chose to make it purple. It doesn't really matter, you can just use whatever color you want. But due to counting, we know that there's going to be 4 purples in this area, which means down here, we're going to have 2 of the other color. And then finally down the bottom here, I'm just going to fill in the row. Now we can do a bit of a reverse of the counting, and then we know that there must be 4 of the same color up here, and because there can't be 4 purples because we've already got 2 of them, we know that this 3 now has to be the other color. There's a really cool pattern that you can do with this, in where you have 1 blue there, and you also have 1 of each of the different colors. And because we know that they're different, we know one of them has to be blue, because there's only 2 options for the colors, which means you can actually fill this one in as red. Just some things I'd like to quickly note about variable coloring is variable coloring never allows you to solve something you couldn't already, and there are some stages where you'll want to stop using variable coloring. Like you get to a stage and you should be like, well, now I've got all the information I can probably from variable coloring, so I want to try the purple as blue and the purple as red and see if that leads to anything. Please note, this puzzle does not have a unique solution. It was not generated by Urjo. It's just something that I created because it shows this pattern very nicely. Alright, now let's quickly run through an example. For this example, the counting argument is the same as in the previous one with the 3, so we can do that same thing. But in this case, due to the 1 already seeing another purple, we can immediately put above it both of the opposite color. Quickly fill in these rows. Then we can use that rule I said before, because there are 2 of the opposite colors below that, and then there's a blue above that, which means up here there must be a red. And then I also forgot to fill in this row up here. After that, you can then use the 2 rows and columns next to each other can't be the same rule in columns 1 and 2 to put a purple beside the 3. That then allows us to once again use the rule because there are 2 different colors and then a blue, so we can color this in red. And then finally again with a red instead of a blue. Finally, we just have to put 1 more black into this puzzle above the purple. Now, this is all looking almost a bit useless, but if you remember what I said before, there gets to a stage where you should just try the purple and black out as red and blue, and in this stage we've got all the way to the end, but that's not always the case. There's nothing particularly interesting about this next part, so I'm just going to speed up the process. Now, if you've got to a state like this, both of these can't work, so you should check all of the numbers, check for rows and columns, check for the counts, and check if they're identical. And then you should be able to see, like in this case with the 4, in the left hand side, only 3 blues, and then 5 reds are touching the 4, which is not valid. So it means that actually the other puzzle has to be the solution. And there we go. That's how you use variable coloring to get the solution of a puzzle that looks very scary. Once again, you don't have to use variable coloring. You can do this in a couple of different ways, but this is just an efficient way to do it.